All right. Hello, everybody. This is the NBA Tournament Strategy Show where we take a look at last night's slate. We look at this slate and just kind of make sure we talk through guys we like, guys we might not like as much, things of that sort. And then on the pre-lock show, that's where the money's made. We talk through our leverage plays, our core plays, guys we're going to be under on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Y'all, this is going to be an insane slate. We already have some trades coming in. Jay Crowder's getting moved to the Bucks. That's interesting. Shouldn't really the Nets were involved in that trade too. Anyway, I'll look at the details later. But we're going to have some trades today that should hopefully impact this slate and make things a little bit more fun and interesting. I like the craziness. I know a lot of people don't. You can definitely lose money because of the craziness, but there's definitely ways that you can interact and try to find an edge. Last night's slate, this was the $100,000 winning lineup. James Harden slid his way in there somehow. I was not on James Harden. Most people were not. Karis LeVert was there. We were high on Karis LeVert, which is nice. On the pre-lock show, Grant Williams, the guy we talked about towards the end of the pre-lock show, was a solid play, which is nice. Evan Mobley, honestly, I wasn't super high on him, but I was around 50% exposure, I believe. Maybe less. I don't know. Pascal Siakam was a leverage play. That one crushed. We had 20% exposure to Siakam last night, if not more. So that helped me a lot last night. Jalen Green, we had a min percentage on, which was a good call, but wish I would have had more. Boucher, we talked about on the pre-lock show, was a domination station play, actually. The domination station liked Boucher. And so I had around 20%. I did limit him to around 20%, which was still double the field, and I was totally fine with. The thing that hurt me the most last night was I had so much exposure to the early games that I didn't have a ton of options to pivot to guys like Noel and Anthony Edwards. This was the guy who got second place, 1/5. Looks like they split. Okay, nice. So this was also 100K. No, okay, so this was second place. I don't really know what's going on here, but this was the second place line. We had NATO. Kristaps Porzingis was a leverage play. Jared Allen was a core play. Bam Adebayo we had some exposure to, but not a ton. But really, once again, just not having a ton of options to pivot to Noel and Anthony Edwards is kind of what hurt me on the slate overall. But honestly, it was an okay one. It was one that I would not have changed a ton. I do wish I had more options to pivot late on. But, you live and you learn and you move on. Next up, let's look at today's slate. We have a nice 4-gamer. Let's see who's here. Michael Ortiz, good morning to you as well, man. Hope everything's going well. Thomas Dye, good to see you. Good to see you. Goose said, what's up, Josiah? Nolan, yes. Double Cam season. I don't know if I can really do that, Nolan, honestly, but I want to. I would love to play Cam Thomas if we can find a reason to. Like, if he starts, Cam Thompson and Cam Johnson would be a fun time. All right. Let's jump into this slate. Let's look at these games. First up, we have the Denver Nuggets against the Orlando Magic. Already, we have our first questionable tag with Jamal Murray. We saw last time out how impactful Jamal Murray's presence can be when he's not there. Guys like Nikola Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon all become more viable. We can also consider more fringe plays as well, but I don't really want to get into that too much until we find out that Jamal Murray, if he's going to play or not. Thankfully, this is the first game on the slate, so we will get that news. So again, not something we have to overthink too much. We should be able to adapt to it in a reasonable time frame. If not, we'll talk about different scenarios on the pre-lock show. We'll get to that when we get to that. For the Orlando Magic, Gary Harris is listed as questionable. Mo Bamba's out. Chuma Okeke is currently listed as out. This is an interesting game in general. I mean, for me, I don't think I'm saying anything crazy. Nikola Jokic is a very, very, very viable play on this slate. Ownership looks like everyone else agrees with that too. If gun was to my head right now and I had to make a call on other guys that I like, assuming Jamal Murray plays, Michael Porter Jr., again, doesn't have the same ceiling and upside with Murray out. But if he's going to be low owned on a 4-game slate, I'll still attack that as a potential leverage play. Markelle Fultz has been in fantastic form. He's definitely viable on this slate. Him being chalky is always a little bit scary for me, but just The form he's been in as of late definitely puts him on my radar. We've been playing guards against the Nuggets a lot this season. It's worked out more often than it hasn't. And so he's definitely on my radar as a viable option. But one I want to dig a little bit deeper into, for me personally, when I see chalky guys and I see ownership increasing on guys, I want to dig into that a little bit deeper to see how comfortable I am with potentially either just matching the field or going under on a guy like that. So he's kind of hitting that box for me as of right now. 4-game slate. I'm sure the domination station will like some other guys, but no one's really standing out to me as a guy that I want to force exposure to. Next up, we have the Suns. Now we're gonna have a lot of Suns exposure. I'm sure a lot of you realized saw the trade news that came out yesterday. Kevin Durant is gonna be on the Suns, which is wild to me. I honestly never thought that was going to happen, but excited to see how it plays out. Devin Booker's already listed as out tonight because of injury management. So the Suns are going to be the super chalk on this slate. And it's good chalk, honestly. There's just a matchup I like against the Hawks, not one that I'm afraid of. That checks off a box. Limited on guys because of all of the trades and guys who are out. That checks the box. So DeAndre Ayton's one of my favorite plays on the slate. The only issue with DeAndre Ayton is that he is only center eligible. And so, again, per usual, there's only so many centers we can play. But as of right now, he's definitely on my radar as someone that could fit in as a potential leverage play for me. Outside of Ayton and Chris Paul and Torrey Craig, who are more like the obvious plays, and Damian Lee, I'm open to having some exposure to guys like Saric here. Well, he's also has a ton of ownership. So outside of the super chalky guys and Josh Okeke, I do want to dig a little bit deeper and see if I can find a good reason to take a shot on a low-owned Saban Lee or Jock Landale. More than likely, probably not a shot I have to take, but I need to dig a bit deeper to see if there's some potential high upside there at super low ownership on the most popular team tonight. Just the way I like to think about situations and scenarios. The Hawks are viable just because it's a 4-game slate. They are very healthy, but they do have some potential trade options that some teams might want to take. So we could end up having some really nice value from this team. Honestly, if any of their starters are missing, I am more excited to force Hawks into my lineups. So definitely hoping we get some trade news from the Hawks. Again, you can never really, I never try to expect these things, but if they happen, would freaking love it. Let's see, anything else from the Hawks? Do any of them, like if we don't get any trade information from this team, like Trae Young's the guy who stands out the most, but honestly, I don't love it. I'm just going to kind of let the domination station do its thing, unless I can find a good reason to play some of their starters. But honestly, I don't love the matchup against the Suns. Nothing's really standing out for me too much of this team's going to be whole. So not super excited about it, to be honest with you. Moving on, we have the Chicago Bulls against the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets, we have a laundry list here. Spencer Dinwiddie is available. That is why we were talking about Cam Thomas, because Cam Thomas has been fantastic with everyone playing. With all the guys that they've had out and all of the moves that they've had, Cam Thomas really stepped up. His price tag has moved all the way to $7,800 when he was a close to min value previously. But now that Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith are available, it really makes things a bit more complicated. Utah Watanabe is questionable. Day'Ron Sharpe is questionable. We have quite a few TBDs. Guys like Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson are currently listed as TBDs, so we'll have to wait and see if they're going to play tonight. Similar story with Jay Crowder, who was literally just traded. I wouldn't expect him to play. And then Seth Curry is out. Thomas Dye. I am playing a 20 max again tonight. Kind of like what I did last night, 20 max and small field GPP. Last night was wild. Like I said, I was winning a lot of money until the late news came out. I still did fine, but definitely not the same upside I had before that news was breaking. Uh, yeah, Michael Ortiz. It definitely hurts Cam Thomas. There's always a world where the coaching staff's like, wow, Cam Thomas really stepped up. Maybe we'll try to give him more minutes or things of that sort, but that's not extremely likely here. If for some reason Cam Thomas ended up starting, then that would make him more viable in my mind. But assuming that's not going to be the case, not very interested. I'm trying to think if there's any Nets I want to have exposure to. This team is going to be the most annoying team in DFS now. They're basically a team filled with 3-and-D shooters, which means they're all streaky scorers, and it's going to be hard to predict which guy's going to go off on a night-to-night basis. In a softer matchup, I would be willing to take a shot on Spencer Dinwiddie. He's probably the guy that I'm most interested in on this team, just in the future, but with this matchup, not my favorite spot. Nick Claxton is another center that's definitely viable here. Again, with this team, we don't really know how usage rate is going to work out, but Claxton has been or is like a legacy guy from the team after all the transitions they've had. So he's probably the guy that we can feel safest about what his role will be. So I know I will have some exposure to him, but I do realize that there's some risk here just because we don't know how usage is going to break out exactly. And especially with Ben Simmons playing again tonight, I hate saying this because everyone DMs me after this doesn't go well, but if I had to pick someone that I am willing to fade, at least as of right now, is more than likely would be Claxton at solid ownership. But moving on, we'll know for sure what we're doing on the pre-lock show. This is just all theory, just brainstorming a little bit, seeing what's going on. Thomas said, same here, thought it'd be a very good night. I know, it was looking so good. It was looking so good. I was ready to take the screenshot, celebrate a little bit. But again, when we're close to the trade deadline, I know the risk. I know the risk that can happen. I remember one time a few years ago, it was the trade deadline, or maybe the night before, and the chalkiest guy on the slate was some point guard, and everyone basically had him and another guy, and then he got traded like either during the game or post lock, and so we couldn't change it. And that was like my first heartbreak in DFS. I was like, okay, random crap can happen and it can ruin my entire slate. So it kind of hardens you a little bit when you go through more of those experiences, but it's still fun when you get it right and you're on the right side of it and you didn't play a ton of that guy. You're like, whoo, it's going to be a good night. So I try to embrace it more than avoid it. Next up for the Bucks, last game on the slate. We kind of spread through this, which is fine. Giannis is listed as probable. Brook Lopez is listed as probable. Joe Ingles is out. Bobby Portis is out. This Lakers team hasn't been the best defensively, but they have improved with with Anthony Davis returning. Giannis is a fine play. I don't plan on fading him. I plan on at least having some exposure. Hopefully close to field weight. Just not a spot I'm trying to fade personally. I also like having exposure to the last game on the slate. So there's that. Drew Holiday, again, we can attack this Lakers team everywhere. So Russell Westbrook being gone might make them a slightly better defense against point guards. So that's something that I have some slight concern about, but full transparency, just not something that I'm super concerned about. More than likely, I'll probably be around field weight. His ownership, I doubt he'll be a leverage play. Brook Lopez is interesting. He hasn't been in the best form, but at 6% ownership, I don't hate taking a shot on him, having like a 20% man, making him a leverage play. So he's definitely on my radar as a viable option at low ownership. Outside of that, we'll let the domination station do its thing and move on. Last team, we have the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James, he got the title. He's questionable. He was battling that foot injury even towards the end of that game. Apparently, he said he was fine, though. He said he was feeling great. Who the heck knows what's the truth? Who knows if there's going to be more trades for this team? I doubt it, but something to keep an eye out for as well. Would love for LeBron to sit this one out. It would just be the icing on the cake for a nice, fun, crazy, wild slate. But assuming he plays, probably the best way to do it. I We'll have exposure to LeBron naturally. I doubt I'll have to force it. We'll have exposure to Anthony Davis. Doubt I'll have to force it. Tough matchup for Davis against the Bucks. He has had some ceiling performances. It looks like earlier this season, like he scored 44 real life points against the Bucks, but typically he hasn't had the strongest track record, so not something I'm trying to force exposure to. But having some, I'm fine with. The others on this team, again, just not anyone I'm super excited about. Be a much more fun game environment if LeBron's out, and then we can play more of these guys. But in general, it's just going to be an interesting slate. I think we're going to have a lot of news that breaks where we're going to have some solid value options. Probably one of my favorite plays on the slate are DeAndre Ayton, and no surprise, Nikola Jokic is someone I plan on having at least being close to field weight, if not slightly over the field on him. So that's where I'm at as of right now. I think it's a pretty straightforward slate for now, but hopefully we get some crazy news that spices things up a little bit. So as always, appreciate you all for watching. Look forward to seeing what happens on the pre-log show and seeing who we like as leverage plays, making core plays, and actually doing the implementation of what I'm going to be doing in the DS tonight. So good luck to everyone. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace out. Bye.